My name's Jason, I'm 28, and I've always been the quiet one in the family. The one who didn't ask for much, didn't raise a fuss, didn't make waves. That was the role I was given, and for years, I stuck to it, partly out of habit, partly because I thought if I just kept my head down long enough, they'd finally see me. Really see me. Not as the responsible one, or the one who doesn't need anything, but as a son, a brother, a person who mattered just as much as the rest. But that never happened. And this year, on my birthday, something inside me finally snapped. It started like every other family gathering. My mom texted me earlier in the week, casually saying we'd do something small on Sunday. She didn't ask what I wanted. No mention of plans, no dinner reservation, no excitement. Just an, oh yeah, we'll do something. I knew better than to expect much, but a part of me still held out hope, because 3 weeks earlier, for my younger brother Ryan's 25th, they threw a full-blown bash. Rented a party bus, blasted music all over the neighborhood, and even surprised him with a weekend trip to the mountains. Everyone posted photos on Instagram, tagging him with big, beaming captions like "best brother ever," and "can't imagine life without this guy." I smiled politely in the group shots, kept the camera steady when I was asked to take videos, and didn't say a word when no one thanked me for covering the catering deposit up front. That was always my role, the background guy. So Sunday rolls around. I showed up at the house around noon, wearing jeans and a polo shirt, nothing flashy, but I'd at least taken the time to shave and bring over some fresh pastries from the bakery near my apartment. My sister Emma opened the door, distracted and on the phone, barely pausing to say hi before walking back inside. The living room was quiet. No balloons, no decorations, not even a happy birthday banner. Just my mom in the kitchen, pulling a single plastic-wrapped cupcake from the fridge and placing it on a paper plate. "There it is," she said with a tired smile, like she was offering me a rare treat. "You still like vanilla, right?" I stared at the cupcake. The frosting was already sliding off the top, and someone had jabbed a crooked candle into it. My dad came in from the garage holding a card, the kind you grab last minute from a drugstore, already signed in different handwriting by everyone, from all of us. No note, no message, just a few names scrawled under a printed joke about aging. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't trust myself to. I just stood there, blinking back whatever this tight feeling in my throat was. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was worse, like I'd spent years trying to be okay with being overlooked, and now I couldn't even fake it anymore. My dad clapped me on the shoulder. "Go ahead, make a wish. And hey, don't expect a parade. You're not a kid anymore." That did it. I looked up at him, then at my mom, who was busy scrolling through her phone like she hadn't even heard him. My brother was nowhere to be seen, probably still recovering from his birthday weekend. Emma had disappeared upstairs. I was alone in the kitchen, staring down at a cupcake no one even bothered to light properly. I blew out the candle without a word, picked up my bag, and walked out the front door. No one stopped me. No one even asked where I was going. I got in my car, drove back to my apartment, and sat in the parking lot for a solid 15 minutes before I could even move. It wasn't just about the cupcake. It wasn't just about this year. It was about every year. Every time I'd covered a bill without complaint, offered to help with moving, babysat nieces and nephews, driven 2 hours for holidays without asking for anything. Every time I'd made myself smaller, quieter, easier, because I thought that's what family needed me to be. Later that night, after I'd checked into a hotel a few towns over, I finally looked at my phone. One text. From Emma. It read, "Mom's crying. Where are you?" I stared at the message for a long time, thumbs hovering over the keyboard, wondering what I was supposed to feel. Guilt? Regret? A sudden urge to rush back and fix things? Instead, I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I let the silence settle in without apologizing for it. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I had to, there were no work calls, no family texts blowing up my phone, yet, but because my body was still wired from the night before. I'd fallen asleep with that tight feeling still in my chest, the kind that doesn't really go away, it just dulls with time. The hotel room was quiet. Generic beige walls, stiff sheets, the hum of the air conditioner, sterile, impersonal, but weirdly comforting. No family photos. No passive-aggressive comments floating in from another room. Just silence. I checked my phone. Missed calls from Mom. One from Dad. A few from Emma. Nothing from Ryan, of course. I wasn't surprised. He probably didn't even know or care that I'd left. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. I needed space. Time to think. For once, I wanted to sit with how I felt without having to explain it to anyone who'd already decided I was too sensitive or overreacting. Around noon, I went down to the hotel cafe, ordered a proper breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee that didn't come from a reheated pot, and brought my laptop with me. I started scrolling through my email and bank accounts. I wasn't just wasting time. I was planning. You see, here's what no one in my family really talked about. I had quietly become the financial backbone of that household. Not because they were destitute, but because they were careless. My parents had made a series of bad investments in their late 50s and were quietly bailed out by me more times than I could count. When Emma went back to school, I helped pay for her tuition shortfall. When Ryan moved out and couldn't make rent, I loaned him a few thousand to get on his feet. My name was on the utilities at my parents' house. I paid for the monthly internet, half the mortgage, though no one mentioned that during family dinners, and most of the maintenance for the family car Dad still drove. I did it because, at the time, it felt like the right thing to do. But what happened the day before made me realize something. They didn't just rely on me, they expected it. They thought of me as reliable, not generous. A wallet, not a person. And worst of all, they didn't respect me enough to even pretend otherwise. After breakfast, I made a list. I pulled up all the accounts where I was listed as the payer, co-owner, or financial backer. Then I started making calls and sending emails, slowly, methodically, calmly. The car insurance? Canceled. I had a separate policy on my personal vehicle anyway. The house utilities? Disconnected from my account. I scheduled it to end by the end of the billing cycle, no drama, just clean breaks. The bank account I shared with my mom, the one where I'd been depositing a monthly helping hand, closed. I transferred the remaining funds back to my personal savings and sent her a polite email letting her know I was no longer in a position to contribute. The family Netflix, Hulu, and every other subscription that magically charged my card every month without anyone saying thank you? Gone. One click. Log out of all devices. By the time I was done, I felt lighter. Not free yet, but lighter. Like I was finally shifting the weight I'd been carrying alone for years. I stayed at the hotel for 2 more days. In that time, Emma sent 3 more texts. One said, "Seriously, where are you? Mom's freaking out." Another just said, "This is childish." And then finally, "You know you hurt them, right?" That one made me pause. Not because it was true, but because it was exactly the problem. I hurt them. They couldn't even imagine I'd been hurt first. On the 3rd morning, I finally responded. Just one message. Ask Mom what she did for my birthday. 5 minutes later, Emma replied, "Jason, it's not a competition." I didn't answer. Instead, I drove back to my apartment. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't feel like being the one to show up first, tail between my legs, like I was supposed to apologize for finally drawing a boundary. That weekend, I didn't hear from anyone. But on Monday morning, I got a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short, clipped. "Jason, we need to talk. I think you're taking this too far. Your mother's really upset. We're family. Call me back." Family. That word used to mean something to me. Now, it just sounded like a card they pulled out when things didn't go their way. I didn't call back. Later that afternoon, I got a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Ryan. Backpack slung over one shoulder, looking like he hadn't slept in a day. "Open up, man," he said. "We need to talk." That was the moment things started shifting. Slowly, uneasily, but definitely. I didn't open the door right away. I just stood there, staring through the peephole at Ryan like I was looking at a stranger. My little brother. Golden boy. Favorite child. The one who got the cheers, the weekends away, the surprise parties, that "we're so proud of you" speeches I never heard growing up. We were close once, or at least I thought we were, until I realized most of our closeness was me helping him, covering for him, picking up the slack so he could keep coasting. He'd never showed up at my door like this before, uninvited, unannounced, and definitely not when things got uncomfortable at home. "Jason," he said again, softer this time. "Come on." I sighed and opened the door just enough to lean against the frame. "What do you want?" He gave a sheepish half-smile like we were still kids and he'd just broken a window with a baseball. "Look, I didn't know it was like that bad." I raised an eyebrow. Didn't know what was bad? That nobody could bother to plan more than a grocery store cupcake for my birthday? Or that I was paying your rent 3 months ago while everyone else was busy throwing you a party bus bash? He shifted on his feet, trying to play it cool. "Okay, yeah, that was messed up. But like, You didn't say anything." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it was. "Of course I didn't," I said. "You know why? Because I was raised in that house. Taught that if I wanted attention, I was being dramatic. If I asked for anything, I was being selfish. And if I ever said, 'Hey, I feel left out,' I was told to stop making it about me." He didn't have a comeback. Just slipped down at his shoes and scratched the back of his neck. "I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. And you still let it happen," I added. "Every time. You knew. You had to know." He didn't deny it. "I didn't think it mattered to you," he finally said. "You always seemed like you were good. Like you didn't care about that stuff." That hit harder than I expected. I was good. At pretending. At swallowing things. At being the one no one had to worry about. But I was tired. So tired of being the solid one, so everyone else could afford to fall apart. I opened the door fully and motioned for him to come in. We sat on the couch, and I waited. Let the silence hang. I wanted him to feel it, the weight I carried in every one of those silences he'd never noticed before. "So, now what?" he finally asked, picking at the loose string on his sleeve. "You cutting everyone off?" I shrugged. "Not out of spite. But I'm done being used." He gave a bitter laugh. "You think they'll even notice?" "I know they will," I said. "Mom's already crying, remember?" He winced. "She's a mess. Keeps saying she didn't mean for things to be unfair. Funny how she only says that now." Ryan looked up at me then, really looked. Not like a little brother to an older one, but like a guy who just realized someone he'd taken for granted had lines he didn't know not to cross. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Like, "I can't fix all of it, but tell me what you need." It was a rare moment of humility from him. I believed it, mostly, but I also knew this wasn't just about me. It was about the entire house of cards my parents had built, with me as the foundation. And now that I'd started pulling out, it was all starting to shake. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them you saw me walk out because I was tired of being treated like I don't matter. Tell them I won't be helping with money anymore. No more, just until the end of the month. No more covering Dad's truck repairs or Mom's prescriptions or Emma's tuition shortfalls." He nodded slowly, the weight of that finally settling in. "And if they ask why," I added, "don't tell them I'm angry. Tell them I'm done." He left without another word. Just a quiet nod, like he finally got it, or at least was trying to. I didn't expect him to change overnight. I didn't expect any of them to. But I knew, deep down, something had shifted. Later that night, I got a voicemail from Mom. She didn't yell, didn't guilt trip me. Her voice was quiet. Tired. "Jason, I didn't mean for it to be so uneven. I guess I thought you didn't need the same things. And maybe that was a terrible assumption. I'm sorry. Please come by. Or call. Just something." I didn't respond. Not yet. Because what came next wasn't an apology. It was denial, guilt, pressure. And then the real manipulation began. 2 days passed. No more calls. No more texts. Just silence. Then, like clockwork, it all came crashing in. It started with a message from Emma, not a text, but a long, dramatic email. The subject line read, "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't even have to open it to know what was inside. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. The first line, "I don't know what's gotten into you, Jason, but this isn't how families work." She went on to list everything I'd done, walking out, abandoning Mom, making a scene, and withholding support like "you're punishing us." She said I was acting like a stranger, that our parents were hurting, and it was my responsibility to help keep the family together. My responsibility, not Ryan's, not hers, just mine. There was no mention of the cupcake, no mention of the years of lopsided treatment or how I'd subsidized half their lives. Just a guilt-laced plea dressed up as concern. The kicker? She closed with, "If you don't come over this weekend, I don't know if we can ever fix this." I sat there staring at my screen, stunned, not by the words, but by how unsurprising they were. That weekend came and went. I didn't go. Sunday night, I got a text from Dad. Just 2 words, "Call me." I didn't. So he showed up at my apartment. He knocked twice, then harder. When I didn't answer, I heard his voice through the door, low, firm, but laced with frustration. "Jason, enough of this. Open the door." I didn't move. He knocked again. "I know you're in there." I stayed quiet. Then he said something that made me clench my fists. "You're making your mother sick, you know? She's barely eating." Like clockwork. Emotional blackmail. I opened the door, slowly, and stood there. We stared at each other for a moment. His expression was hard, like he'd rehearsed this confrontation. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't here to listen. He was here to win. "You done sulking?" he said. That word, sulking, lit something in me. "Is that what you think this is?" I asked quietly. "I think," he said, stepping inside uninvited, "that this little stunt has gone far enough. Your mother's been crying, Emma's furious, and Ryan, well, he's trying, but this is getting out of hand." I stood still, trying to stay calm. "You're talking about a stunt, but not once have you asked why I left." Dad scoffed. "Because we didn't throw a big party? Come on, Jason. You're 30. You don't need balloons and confetti." "No," I said. "I needed to feel like I mattered. I needed someone to show me that I'm not just a bank account and a backup plan. That after all these years, I'm more than just the one who keeps things running while everyone else gets to shine." He rolled his eyes. "You've always been dramatic." That word again. Dramatic. I laughed once, bitter and short. "You know what? You can go." "What?" "You heard me," I said. "You came here to convince me I'm the problem. You didn't come to apologize. You didn't come to understand. You came because things are falling apart now that I stopped paying for everything." He narrowed his eyes. "You think this is about money?" "I know it is," I said. "Because the moment the bank shut off, the whole house started shaking." Dad didn't say anything, just stood there, fuming. And then, in a tone I hadn't heard since I was a kid, he said, "You think you're better than us now, huh?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, I just finally think I deserve equal." He left without another word. The next day, the family group chat, which I hadn't left, just muted, lit up. Emma said she was disappointed in how I'd handled things. Mom sent a single message, "I don't know who you've become." And then Ryan dropped said, "He became the only adult in the room." Took me too long to see it. The chat went silent. The days that followed were quiet. I thought it might finally be over. But that was when the real turning point came. A letter arrived in the mail. Certified. From a lawyer. Inside, notice of intent from my parents to remove me from the future estate plan due to estrangement and recent behavior. I sat at my kitchen table holding the paper, a cold shock running through me. Not because I cared about the inheritance, but because they genuinely thought that was leverage. They didn't know I already knew. I'd seen the estate documents 2 years ago when I helped pay for the lawyer. I was never the main beneficiary. Ryan was. They were just using it now, dangling the illusion of something I'd already been excluded from, like I should be grateful for a future scrap. That was the final straw. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out a folder labeled receipts. Literal and metaphorical. I had every email, every bank transfer, every invoice I'd paid for them over the last 5 years. I didn't gather them for revenge. I gathered them because I'd learned, slowly and painfully, that people will rewrite history if you let them. And now, I wasn't letting anyone rewrite mine. I spent that entire night going through the folder. Every transfer, every receipt, every polite little "thanks, Jay" text I'd gotten after covering yet another family bill. I screenshotted bank statements, dug up emailed invoices, pulled up texts from years ago that said things like, "Hey, can you cover this month?" Just until we get things sorted. I built a timeline, organized, thorough, impossible to argue with. Then I wrote a letter. Not emotional, not angry, just facts. I included totals. I noted exact dates. I listed the utility accounts still tied to my name, the car insurance payments, the emergency transfers when mom's credit card bounced or dad's truck broke down. I finished it with one sentence. Consider this formal notice that all financial support, direct or indirect, has been permanently discontinued as of this date. Then I attached everything and sent it to each of them, Mom, Dad, Emma, and even Ryan, through individual emails marked with red receipts. I also CC'd the lawyer who sent me the estate letter with a short message, "Appreciate the heads up. Please note I was never the intended beneficiary, so no need to threaten me with exclusion. I'm not interested in scraps. I've been the one subsidizing the empire." Less than an hour later, my phone rang. It was Emma. I let it go to voicemail. Then came Mom and Dad. Then a flurry of messages in the family group chat, most of them some variation of, "This is unnecessary, you're blowing things out of proportion," and my personal favorite, "This isn't how families solve problems." Right. Because apparently, families only solve problems when it doesn't involve confronting their own behavior. Then Ryan texted me privately. I read it all. I didn't know it was that much. I responded, simply, "Now you do." He didn't reply, but I noticed he left the group chat later that night. The following weekend, I got a call from my aunt, Mom's sister. I hadn't spoken to her in years, mostly because we only saw each other during holidays and she lived out of state. But she'd seen the ripple effect, heard the family's version of the story, then saw my email, which Mom had forwarded to the extended family with a dramatic caption, "Look what Jason's turned into." "I wanted to hear it from you," my aunt said over the phone. So I told her everything, slowly, calmly. I didn't exaggerate, didn't try to spin it. Just laid it out like a story I'd finally decided was worth telling. When I was done, she let out a long breath. "I always wondered why they leaned on you so much," she said. "But I figured it was mutual. I didn't realize they never gave you anything back." That was the first time I heard someone in the family say it. She didn't offer a solution, didn't try to fix it, just validated it. That alone meant more to me than any fake birthday celebration. In the weeks that followed, things changed, but not in the way sitcoms promise. There was no big family reunion, no heartfelt apology in the rain, no group hug in the driveway while dramatic music played. Instead, the silence grew longer, heavier, and somehow more peaceful. Mom tried reaching out a few more times. She even sent a letter in the mail, handwritten, pages long. It rambled, half apology, half guilt trip. She said she never realized how much I did, that she thought I didn't mind, that she wasn't perfect, but always had good intentions. And I believed that. I did. But I also believed that good intentions don't excuse years of selective blindness. So I wrote back, "I don't hate you. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I won't pretend anymore. I'm not the unbreakable one, and I never should have had to be. I'm okay with space if that's what it takes for people to see me clearly." She didn't respond. I saw Emma once, months later, at a mutual friend's wedding. She walked up stiffly, held a drink like a shield, and said, "You look good." "You too," I replied. We stood in silence for a beat. Then she said, "Ryan's been different. More grounded." I think seeing the numbers finally shook him. I nodded. "I didn't mean for things to get so cold," she added. "I know," I said, "but I think the cold helped me see what was real." She didn't argue, just gave me a sad smile, then drifted back into the crowd. Eventually, Dad reached out again, not to apologize, but to offer a fresh start. He suggested we put the past behind us and come by for Thanksgiving. I declined. "I'm building something new," I said. "Maybe someday we can meet in the middle, but not yet." Because here's the thing, he wasn't offering reconciliation. He was offering a reset on their terms. The kind where no one talks about what happened and everything goes back to normal. But I didn't want normal. I wanted honest. And I learned that people who aren't willing to talk about the hurt aren't ready to rebuild trust. In time, I filled the space they left behind. I spent more weekends with friends who didn't treat me like a utility. I reconnected with old college buddies. I even joined a hiking group, something I'd never made time for before because I was always too needed. I celebrated my next birthday in a quiet cabin with 3 friends and 0 expectations. No flashy party, no drama, just a weekend of peace, laughter, and people who showed up because they wanted to, not because I sent reminders. That was the first time I truly felt celebrated. Not for what I could do, not for what I gave, but just for being me. So no, this story doesn't end with dramatic fireworks or explosive revenge. It ends with a quiet reclamation of time, of space, of worth. I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped repairing ones that only ever led me to places I didn't feel welcome. And I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. And that's worth more than every party bus, every banner, every "from all of us" card I never asked for but kept pretending was enough. Now, I don't settle for crumbs from a table I built. I set my own, and only invite people who bring something real. My name is Adrian, and if there's one thing I learned growing up, it's that family doesn't always have your back. Sometimes, they'll smile to your face while handing everything you deserve to someone else. Sometimes, they'll make it clear you were never their priority. And sometimes, if you're really unlucky, they'll even laugh while they do it. I was the youngest in the family, with only one sibling, my older sister, Rachel. If you asked my parents, she was perfect. She was smart, responsible, the golden child who could do no wrong. And me? I was always just there. A background character in my own family. If she wanted something, she got it. No questions asked. And if I wanted something? Well, I needed to stop being so selfish and learn to share. It wasn't obvious at first, at least not when I was little. But as I grew up, I started noticing the pattern. Rachel got a brand new car on her 18th birthday. I got an old second-hand junker that barely ran. She went to an expensive college, fully paid for by her parents. I was told to take out student loans because they had already spent too much on Rachel's education. Every milestone in my life was treated as an inconvenience, something they had to deal with rather than celebrate. But the real betrayal? That came later. Our childhood home was everything to me. It wasn't a mansion or anything special, just a cozy two-story house with a big backyard where I used to play as a kid. It was the one place that always felt like home. My parents had owned it for decades, and they always said they planned to pass it down to us. I naively thought that meant splitting it equally between me and Rachel. I should have known better. I still remember the day they told me. I had just graduated college, scraping by on part-time jobs while looking for a real career. I was exhausted but hopeful, thinking that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally get something fair from my family. Instead, I came home to find my parents and Rachel sitting in the living room, all smiles and excitement. "Great news, Adrian." My mom beamed. "We've decided to give the house to Rachel." I blinked. "What?" "Rachel has a family now," my dad said, as if that explained everything. "She has a husband, a baby on the way. She needs the space. You're still young. You'll figure something out." Rachel just smirked, sitting there like a queen accepting her throne. "It makes sense, doesn't it?" she said. "I mean, you don't even need a house. It'd be wasted on you." And then, the part that still burns in my memory, my parents laughed. Actually laughed, as if the idea of me deserving a place to live was some kind of joke. I didn't laugh. I didn't smile. I fought. I argued. I reminded them that I was their son too, that I had worked just as hard, that Rachel getting married didn't mean I should be thrown aside like an afterthought. But they wouldn't budge. "Rachel needs it more," they kept saying. "You'll understand when you're older." I left that day with nothing but a sick feeling in my stomach and the knowledge that I wasn't welcome in my own home anymore. But if they thought I'd just roll over and accept it, they were wrong. I walked out of that house feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. It was the first time in my life I truly understood what it meant to be on my own. No backup, no safety net, just me. I wanted to believe that maybe my parents would come to their senses, that they'd realize how unfair they had been. But weeks passed and nothing changed. Rachel moved into the house like it had always belonged to her, redecorating, changing things, erasing every trace of the childhood we had shared. My parents helped her settle in, acting like they had done something noble, something right. And me? I was left scrambling. I had no savings. My part-time job barely covered my student loans, and with nowhere to go, I had to crash on a friend's couch. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd find a job, get back on my feet, and everything would be fine. But reality had other plans. Finding a stable job was harder than I expected. Every rejection email chipped away at my confidence. My friends were supportive, but I could tell I was overstaying my welcome. I can see it in the way their smiles got tighter, the way they hesitated before saying I could stay as long as I needed. I couldn't blame them. No one wants a permanent houseguest who can barely afford to chip in for rent. I applied everywhere: corporate jobs, retail, even restaurants, but nothing stuck. My parents knew I was struggling, and do you think they offered to help? Not once. When I finally caved and asked if I could stay for a little while, just until I got a steady paycheck, my mom sighed like I was being dramatic. "Adrian, we talked about this," she said, her voice sickly sweet, like she was explaining something to a child. "Rachel and her family need the space. You'll figure something out. You always do." Rachel, of course, had to chime in. "Maybe if you stopped whining and worked harder, you wouldn't be in this mess." I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palm. "I am working hard." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Then why are you still broke?" That was the last time I asked them for anything. If they wanted to cut me out, fine. I'd do it on my own. For the next year, I bounced between cheap rentals, doing whatever I could to keep my head above water. I took jobs I hated, dealt with bosses who barely looked at me, and learned to stretch every dollar. There were nights I went to sleep hungry, mornings I woke up exhausted, but I kept going. Because I had one goal: make it out of this and never, ever need them again. And slowly, things started to change. I landed a job at a small tech startup. Low pay, long hours, but it was something. I threw myself into it, working late, taking on extra projects, learning everything I could. When promotions came up, I fought for them. When opportunities appeared, I grabbed them. While my parents were busy playing house with Rachel, I was building something real. And one day, after years of climbing, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I had my own apartment, bigger than anything I'd ever expected to afford. My bank account wasn't just stable, it was comfortable. The kind of comfortable that meant I didn't have to check my balance before making a purchase. And best of all, I had something no one could take from me: independence. I thought I'd moved on. I really did. But life has a way of bringing things full circle. Because after years of acting like I didn't exist, my parents showed up again. And this time, they were the ones with nowhere to go. It started with a phone call, a number I hadn't saved, but one I recognized instantly. My mother. I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. It had been years since she last called me. The last time we spoke was a half-hearted birthday text she sent out of obligation, one I didn't even bother responding to. So why now? Curiosity won over. I picked up. Hello. For a second, there was silence. Then, a hesitant, almost nervous voice. Adrian, it's Mom. I leaned back in my chair, waiting. I wasn't about to make this easy for her. Yeah. She exhaled, as if this call was some great burden on her. How have you been? I almost laughed. How have I been? Now she cared. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing just how well I was doing. Fine, I said flatly. Why are you calling? There was a pause, then a strained chuckle. Straight to the point, huh? You always were so impatient. That's when I knew she wanted something. She always pulled the motherly guilt trip when she needed a favor. I waited, letting the silence stretch until she finally cracked. Well, we've run into a bit of a situation, she admitted, her voice careful, like she didn't want to give me too many details. Your father and I, things have been hard lately. We had to leave the house. I raised an eyebrow, even though she couldn't see me. Their house. They hadn't owned a house in years. They gave ours to Rachel, and last I heard, they were renting a small place nearby. What do you mean, had to leave? I asked, my voice deceptively calm. She hesitated, and then, in a much smaller voice, she said, we were evicted. That caught my attention. My parents were not the kind of people who got evicted. They had always lived comfortably, spending money without much thought. But hearing that single word, evicted, told me exactly how bad things had gotten. I leaned forward, resting my elbow on my desk. How'd that happen? She sighed, her tone shifting into self-pity. Money problems, Adrian. We've had some bad luck. Your father's business took a hit. And, well, rent just kept going up. We fell behind. And she cut herself off, probably realizing she was revealing too much. Then, her voice brightened, as if she were just so excited to share the next part. But it's all okay, because we figured it out. We just need a place to stay for a while, just until we get back on our feet. And there it was, the real reason for the call. I let her words hang in the air for a moment before I asked, and Rachel? Silence. I knew the answer before she even spoke. Well, my mother started, her voice tight. She's going through a lot right now. The kids, you know, and her husband, he's been under a lot of stress. They don't have the space. I almost laughed. They don't have the space? In the house they stole from me? Rachel has 4 bedrooms, I pointed out, and a finished basement. Well, yes, but she scrambled for an excuse, but there was none. The truth was simple. Rachel didn't want them there. The golden child they had sacrificed everything for had turned them away. And now, after treating me like an afterthought for years, I was their only option. I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I kept my voice neutral. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. You gave away the only home we ever had. You laughed in my face when I asked for fairness. You ignored me when I was struggling. And now, after all that, you expect me to help you? My mother let out a soft, nervous chuckle. Oh, Adrian, don't be so dramatic. We're family. You know we didn't mean to hurt you. And besides, you're doing so well now. You have a big place, right? Plenty of space. Oh, so they didn't know I was successful. They must have been keeping tabs on me, even if they never reached out. I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to just hang up right then and there. But I wasn't done yet. Where are you staying now? I asked. A motel, she admitted. But it's awful, Adrian. We can't live like this. Can't live like this. Funny. I remembered nights when I slept in my car because I couldn't afford rent. I remembered stretching a single meal across 2 days because I had nothing left in my bank account. I survived, without their help, without their pity. And now they were acting like they were the ones who had suffered. I exhaled, leaning back again. I'll think about it, I said. My mother sounded relieved. Oh, Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand. Just let us know when we can come by. I said I'll think about it. I interrupted. Then, without another word, I hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, the screen still lit up from the call. My mother's voice still echoed in my head, dripping with fake sweetness. Oh, Adrian, don't be so dramatic. We're family. Family. Funny how that only mattered when they needed something. I wasn't done yet. If my parents were desperate enough to come crawling to me, that meant one thing: Rachel had shut the door in their faces. And I needed to hear that for myself. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb hesitating over her name. I hadn't spoken to Rachel in years. Not because of some dramatic falling out, but because she never needed to talk to me. She had our parents, she had the house, she had their undivided love and support. I was just an afterthought, a name on a Christmas card, if that. Still, I tapped the call button. It rang twice before she answered. Adrian, she said, her voice filled with confusion. Straight to the point. Hey, Rachel, just got a call from Mom. There was a pause. Oh, that was all she had to say? I let the silence stretch before continuing, my tone casual. Yeah, she told me they got evicted. Said they needed a place to stay. So why aren't they with you? She sighed, the kind of exhausted sigh that people gave when they were about to justify something they knew was wrong. Adrian, it's complicated. No, it's not. My voice was sharper now. They gave you the house. They prioritized you over me for everything. But the second things go south, you're suddenly too busy to help. She groaned, like this was inconveniencing her. Look, it's not that simple. I have kids, Adrian. You wouldn't understand. Oh, don't start, I snapped. You think I don't understand responsibility? I had to build my life from nothing because Mom and Dad made sure you got everything first. And now you're just, what? Pretending they don't exist. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I can't have them here, okay? Mark isn't comfortable with it. Ah, Mark. Her husband. The guy who had zero problems taking the house when it was handed to them on a silver platter, but suddenly had an issue when it came time to return the favor. Let me guess, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. It's too much stress for him? Maybe he thinks it's not fair to disrupt your life like that. Rachel hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Wow, so now we care about fairness. Her voice turned defensive. Adrian, don't be like this. We all have our own struggles. That did it. That actually made me see red. Struggles. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. Do you remember when I was struggling, Rachel? When I had to sleep in my car because I didn't have enough for rent? When I asked Mom and Dad for help, and they laughed? Told me I didn't need a house because I didn't have a family to take care of? Silence. Yeah, I continued. But you didn't care then, did you? Because it didn't affect you. And now, when the tables have turned, you suddenly expect me to be the generous one. She let out another sigh, but this time, it wasn't exasperation. It was discomfort. Like she knew I was right but didn't want to admit it. I didn't make that decision, Adrian. Mom and Dad did. Yeah, I said coldly. And you benefited from it. There was nothing else to say. I hung up before she could respond. I sat there, my phone still clutched in my hand, my heart pounding. My parents had raised Rachel to believe the world revolved around her. They had given her my home, my security, without a second thought. And now, when they needed something, she couldn't even be bothered to return the favor. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt some sense of twisted satisfaction. But all I felt was anger. And the thing about anger? It makes you want to even the score. I stared at my phone, my fingers tightening around it as I processed everything. My parents had always put Rachel first. They had made it clear that she was the one who deserved their love, their support, their home. And now, when life had finally caught up with them, she was just as quick to abandon them as they had been to abandon me. It was almost poetic. Almost. But the anger still burned inside me. I wasn't the same person I had been all those years ago, the kid begging for scraps of affection, the broke 20-something sleeping in his car, hoping for a break. I had built something for myself. I had carved out a life through sheer willpower and hard work. And now? Now, I had the power to decide exactly how this played out. I took a deep breath and opened my messages. My mother had texted me twice while I was on the phone with Rachel. Mom texted, Adrian, we just need a place to stay for a few weeks. I know you don't have kids, so it's not like it's a big deal. We wouldn't be a burden. A burden. I closed my eyes and let out a bitter laugh. They had always seen me as someone who didn't matter, someone whose needs weren't as important as Rachel's. I had spent my childhood watching them bend over backward for her while I got the leftovers. And yet, here they were, begging me for help. I knew I could end this right now. A simple no, and I'd be free of them forever. But that wasn't enough. I needed them to feel it, to understand, truly understand, what it was like to be cast aside like they had done to me. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove back to my childhood home. I parked across the street and just sat there for a moment, staring at the house that had once been mine. It looked the same, yet different. Rachel had changed the color of the shutters. The porch had new furniture. There was a playset in the front yard now, probably for her kids. This house had been my home once. My memories were woven into its walls, its floors, its very foundation. But now? Now, it was just another reminder of how little I had mattered to my own family. I stepped out of the car, my heart pounding, and walked up the driveway. I didn't even have to knock. Rachel had seen me through the window. She opened the door hesitantly, her expression wary. "Adrian," she said, crossing her arms. "What are you doing here?" I glanced past her, into the house. "Our house. Just wanted to see the place," I said coolly. "Been a long time." Her eyes flickered with something, maybe guilt, maybe irritation. "It's different now," she said. "It's my home." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, it is." She shifted uncomfortably. "Look, Adrian, if you came here to argue, I don't have time for this. I already told you, I can't take them in." I leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "You know," I said, "it's funny. Mom and Dad justified giving you this house because I didn't need it, because you had a family. And yet, the second they actually need something, you're just done with them." Her jaw tightened. "You think I don't feel bad?" She snapped. "I have my own life, Adrian. I can't just drop everything for them." I tilted my head, but they expected me to. She opened her mouth, then closed it, realizing she had no argument. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Just wanted to hear it from you," I said. Then I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, speechless. As I got back in my car, my phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. Mom texted, "Adrian, please. We don't have anywhere else to go." I stared at the message, my grip tightening around the phone. They had made their choice years ago, and now it was my turn. I let the phone sit in my lap, staring at the message. The same people who had laughed in my face, who had told me I didn't need a home, were now desperate for mine. The irony was almost too perfect. But I wasn't going to respond with a simple no that was too easy, too clean. They needed to feel it. They needed to understand. So I picked up my phone and dialed. My mother answered on the first ring. "Adrian." "Oh, thank God. We were starting to think you wouldn't." I cut her off. "I just talked to Rachel." Silence. Then, cautiously, "Oh, did she tell you why she can't take us in?" "She told me a lot of things." I leaned back in my seat, staring at the house, her house. But what I really wanted to hear was whether or not she'd fight for you the way you fought for her. More silence. Then my father's voice, slightly muffled in the background. "What's he saying?" "She's not taking you in," I said, my voice calm, almost detached. "I guess you were right all along. She needed the house. She needed the family support." I let out a small laugh. "Shame she doesn't think you need the same." I could hear my mother inhale sharply. "Adrian, please, no," I said, my voice turning cold. "You don't get to please me now. Don't be like this." My father suddenly cut in. His voice, the same authoritative, dismissive tone I had heard my entire life, made my blood boil. "We're family. Families help each other." "Oh, now we're family?" I asked. "Was I your family when you laughed in my face and gave away my home? Was I family when you told me I didn't need a house? When I was struggling just to get by while you lived comfortably in the home that should have been mine?" "That was years ago," my mother said weakly. "We didn't know things would turn out this way." I clenched my jaw. "Neither did I said quietly. "I didn't know that being your son meant I was disposable. I didn't know that my whole life would be spent playing second to Rachel. And I sure as hell didn't know that one day, when you had nowhere else to go, you'd come crawling to me, expecting me to forget everything you did." "Adrian, we're sorry." My mother tried again. "But you have a big house, don't you? You have money now. You won't even notice if we stay for a while." I let out a humorless laugh. "Just like you didn't notice when I had nothing?" She faltered. "You know what's funny?" I continued. "You didn't just take my house. You took away my sense of security. You made it clear that I wasn't worth fighting for. And now, the person you did fight for won't even lift a finger for you. Adrian, we raised you." My father snapped. "We put food on the table. We gave you, what? A roof over my head until you decided I didn't need one? A childhood full of being ignored in favor of Rachel. I scoffed. You didn't raise me. You tolerated me. There was a long, heavy silence. Then my mother tried one last time, her voice desperate. Please, Adrian. We have nowhere to go. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, then exhaled. And then, I gave them the same answer they had once given me. You don't need a house. I hung up, and this time, I wasn't the one left out in the cold. This all happened yesterday. I haven't answered any calls since, and I don't plan to. They've been blowing up my phone, alternating between guilt-tripping, fake apologies, and outright demands that I stop being petty and think about family. Even Rachel had the nerve to text me, saying I was being cruel. Cruel? Me? The same people who laughed in my face when I begged them not to take my childhood home are now calling me cruel because I won't give them a place to stay? I don't feel bad. Not even a little. But I'll admit, part of me is curious. Did I do the right thing? Should I have at least let them stay for a few days? Or is cutting them off completely the best decision? I know one thing for sure. I finally have the power in this situation, and I'm not about to hand it back. What do you think?